Hey everybody, Rich here, Rich's Custom Marine and Auto. So we're going to be working on this Husqvarna 2246 LS, and this is actually a mower that I've done some work on in the past and fixed it for the customer, got it all back up and running and great, but the mice have done some damage to it. You can see he's kind of tried to fix the wires some here, and so we'll go through and take care of that. But I got a phone call from the owner the other day, and they said, if you want this mower, we bought a new one and you can just have it. And I'm okay, because I'm using an old LT1000. Still works great, still runs great. Some of the places I have to go with it, because it's got a 42-inch deck, I will probably stay with using that. This is a 46, hence the 2246. I believe the 22 is the horsepower of the V-twin engine. But came with a new coil, and basically the air filter looks pretty much brand new. They had already replaced the one coil, so but the air gap looks a little bit tight there to me, and then that one actually looks a little bit loose. So I'm gonna go through the wiring here and kind of fix it up a little bit, and then we're gonna see if this thing will get running. We're gonna bring you guys along and go through all the checks. Of course, we'll check the oil level and see how dirty it is and stuff. Probably won't change it right now just to get it running. There should be a video on my channel of this. I'm pretty sure that I had to rebuild the carburetor, and then I did an oil and filter, possibly did the air filter, and I think that was it to get it running before. But I don't really see any other mouse damage. Looking around at the wires and looking up inside of there, I don't really see any other damage. So basically they just got underneath the blower cover, that guy, and what they had done, the person was telling me, is the actual plug wire itself was chewed and was actually arcing to this plate on the motor. So but all right, I'm gonna set this up on the tripod and then we'll start doing some checks and see what we got. Okay, I want to start with setting the coil air gap here. On this mower, these are 8mm or 5/16. Recommended gap is 10 to 14 thousandths. So I'm going to use a 12 thousandths feeler gauge. Okay, so what I've done is I've centered the magnet on these little feet or fingers, and then you can see where I've got the feeler gauge in there, because sometimes that magnet will be sticking out a little bit more than what the flywheel does itself. So always set them to the magnet itself. And now we'll rotate this to get the feeler gauge out of there. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Snug that thing down. And that's got the coil gap set. Let's check the oil. Oil is actually just slightly down and doesn't look too bad. So I think the next thing to do is see if this thing will crank up. Can't really tell what the fuel level is because I can't see through the sight gauge. Alright, let's see if it's just a fuel issue. Okay, so we got a fuel issue. Sounds good, no knocking. So I think off camera I'm gonna fix this wire. I need to find a piece of wire because this is like solid house wiring, and I'm gonna get rid of this wire nut and we'll solder and heat shrink to do a proper repair there. And then probably pull the fuel filter off and see if we've got fuel there, if it's just the fuel filter that's the issue, or maybe it just doesn't have gas in it. Just to show you guys, this is what the mice had done to the spark plug wire. Pretty much tore it up. Swapped out that wire. I didn't have a black wire, so I just had to use this red one. But got it all soldered and heat shrunk. Put a new fuel filter on it, put some gas in it. Let's see if the fuel pump's working, if it starts filling this filter up. Nope, not seeing any fuel getting picked up by the fuel pump. I'm going to give it another shot of starting fluid and see if that helps. Nope. Alright, so we're going to switch out the fuel pump. Okay guys, we got her running. Had a bad piece of fuel line right there. That fuel line had a cut in it and was sucking air. So likely our other fuel pump is actually good. So I don't want to run it too long without the blower housing on it because it doesn't give the cylinders the proper cooling. So I'm going to shove this thing back inside, get the screen and the blower cover on it, and maybe we'll go for a drive. Alright, we got our blower cover. I blew this out with air since it was off. You want to make sure that all of your baffles get tucked underneath like they're supposed to be. And then you want to make sure the spark plug wires go in their notch like they're supposed to there. And see, we don't have this one quite seated properly. And we got that spark plug seated right. Looks like we're missing one, so we'll have to find a bolt for that. I'm not going to have that kind of shouldered bolt like that, but I will have a regular bolt that I can put a washer and a lock washer on to get us by till I can get one. And if you've got to do what I did and go find a bolt that works, it is a 1/4 20 is the diameter and thread pitch that you need. Okay, then we can put the screen on top. This just keeps leaves out. And you always want to make sure you get your blower cover low enough so this doesn't drag. Okay, air filter. And then the cover. Now let's fire this thing up again. Alright guys, so an update here. It does run and drive. It doesn't like to go above about half throttle. It starts popping really bad. You can see I've got the spark plugs out of it. This cylinder here is nowhere near up to the temperature that this one is. So I did pull the spark plugs out. I just ran a compression test. Sometimes these will blow a head gasket. That's more of a Kohler thing than a Briggs & Stratton. But this one had 150 psi and the one that was running was about 145. So that's not the issue. So I think we need to dig back into ignition. Okay, I got my spark checker hooked up. Let's see what it does. It's got spark, but it's not real strong. Let's see what the other side. Okay, we're hooked up over here. Let's see what it does. Has spark as well, but again, not real strong. So maybe we need to clean up the flywheel magnet some and do a little bit more wire inspecting. Okay guys, quick update. Shop's a little loud because it's raining here in the Pacific Northwest. I didn't run the camera through all the troubleshooting just because there was a lot involved. I did finally get this cylinder to come to life. I checked, there's a couple diodes and this black wire right here that comes down to this connector. That's what is actually the wire that comes off the ignition that grounds out the coils to shut the engine down. There's a resistor in, or excuse me, there's a diode in there that prevents backfeed, and sometimes that can be an issue. So here's an extra coil just to show you, and it plugs in right there. So one of the things you can do is just unplug that wire off of the coil and start your engine and see if that fixes the issue. If it runs normally, then you're going to have to find a diode or get another one of those wires that has the diode in it. Now you might be wondering, how would you shut the engine off if you take away that ground wire? So all of these more modern small engines have these shut-off solenoids on the bottom of the fuel bowl. So when I did this yesterday and I'd shut the key off, it'd run for about, I don't know, 10-12 seconds and then shut off. The other thing you can always do is just go to full choke like you would when it's cold, and doing that, it'll die. So the other thing I found out, so I took the original coil was on this side. I wanted to swap it to the other side for troubleshooting. Well, using this as an example, so the coil sat in there like that, well, I rotated it over and set it like so. Well, I still had the same issue, and then when I put my spark checker on there, I didn't have any spark on that cylinder, and I couldn't figure out why. Took the coil, swapped it back over to this side, rolled it over like that, had good spark. Well, I cleaned up the mounting base on the engine and on the coil. The only thing I could figure is, so guys, there's a little terminal right there, and that's where this gets its ground from. The coil gets its reference ground from. Well, I'm assuming, as old as the coil was, that maybe in between these layers there was probably some corrosion. And what had happened was, with it laying down like that, of course this plate was grounding on the engine. When I flipped it over, now that ground had to go all the way through. And yeah, you might wonder, like I did, why didn't the bolts carry that through? I don't know. But what I can tell you is, right now, the original coil is over there, and it's flipped with that little tab down, and then the other coil is tabbed down on this side, and it runs great. So just a little interesting tidbit there that I found. So that's what got it going. I had also checked the valve clearance on this side. It was great. If I didn't say already, compression was 150. This one was 145. Leak down was 2%. Gosh, that is so absolutely amazing. That's better than perfect. So I knew that physically everything was fine in the cylinder. The valves were sealing and rings were good and all of that. So and then I cleaned the carburetor. There was a little bit of stuff in the bowl, but nothing was blocking the jet, because I thought maybe on this side that jet was clogged, because there's two jets in that carburetor, one for each cylinder. And then come to find out, that coil ground was an issue. Now, I ran it for a little bit, and then it acted up a little, which I thought was odd. I went into my stuff and I put a new spark plug in this side over here, and then it ran even better. So I think maybe the plug was going bad as well. I'm not really sure. They are Briggs & Stratton spark plugs, and they look relatively new, so I wouldn't think that would be an issue. But what I can tell you is, just like it sits, I went out and mowed our upper yard last night, just before it got dark, and it absolutely worked like a champ. Ran great, had no issues. The only issue I did end up having was, well, flat tire. So, but anyways, guys, that was the fix for this. Hope that helps some of you guys out. And this, let me give you the model number. See if we can get it to show there. 8BXSX.7242VC. So very common Briggs & Stratton 22 horse. Comes in a bunch of these riding mowers, and overall good engine. Now it's not unheard of to have a coil issue with these. So, but my recommendation would be to get a genuine coil. These coils were in a genuine box when the guy gave them to me, and actually even came with hardware, and you can see it's got the Briggs & Stratton logo on it, but they're definitely different. So the original coil, the windings here are much narrower. So I did have to clearance the mount just a little bit, just a little bit of webbing in there to make it work. But anyways, it's good to go. So and then I guess evidently that exhaust baffle came down or got pulled down at some point. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow along. Check out our channel. We're up to 240 plus videos. So we just try to do things that'll help you guys out as we do stuff here in the shop. And appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one.